Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers here with John Cummins. How are you? How's it going?
I'm good. How are you, Sam?
That's what we get for not changing the notes. RetroLogic isn't just a podcast. It's a community of retro gamers. We've got an active, friendly, and free Discord. We do giveaways, contests. You can dive into our retro family of podcasts like RetroGroove, a music history podcast, Filmlogic, a streaming and movie film podcast, and On Topic Retro, a podcast dedicated to one video game per episode, hosted by myself or Sam or somebody sometimes, whoever we are tonight. But you can find all these things at the website, retrologic.games, and it is up, so you can actually find it at retrologic.games. I need to formally thank Tim from the Nintendo Dads for helping us get that back up. So I think the website was on hiatus for almost as long as Dan has been on hiatus. But we have it back up, and you can check out all the things, including a blog that Sam runs that we never have in the intro.
That has also been on hiatus.
Yeah.
I've kind of been on hiatus, though. I'm moving.
Yeah, that makes...
Still sort of mid-move here.
That makes it to where you go on hiatus. But I think there are some things on there from Mike, right?
Yeah, Mike was doing his parody stuff.
There's still things going on, just it's being drip fed slower than Wii U releases. So just have to hang with us as we get back in the groove.
It's like the Switch NSO apps.
Yeah. They've started out strong, and they're coming down to re-releasing Dr. Mario for the 4th time.
And then one day you'll just get all of GameCube dumped on you, right? It's gonna happen. True believers.
Nope. GameCube's gonna come to us in $60 remakes all day, every day.
Yeah, it is. It kind of is already.
Yeah, it's already happening.
We're getting like Batten Kaidos remakes and
not very good
what
ones.
What else has got remade on GameCube? Yeah.
Apparently that's I haven't played it
Battlefront.
Yet, but apparently it's had some issues.
I heard Battlefront has issues.
Hopefully the Nintendo can do it better themselves, and hopefully the 1,000 Year Door remake is worth playing.
Yeah, 1,000 Year Door, that's coming.
Because I haven't played that game. Man. I've played it since it released, but it's been a long time ago. I'm ready to play that again.
Just don't be one of those guys that says, I can't wait to play 1,000 Year Door again, while 1,000 Year Door is sitting on the shelf behind you.
Yeah, I have 1,000. I can play it anytime I want. Yeah.
I know. That's like a pet peeve of mine. Being
not
of like
everybody has 1,000 Year Door though at their house.
That's true. But just that statement that I hear, like, can't wait to play this game again, implying that you do already have it.
Well, or that you have
played it
at some
before.
point in time. Yeah. I have a feeling that less people played 1,000 Year Door than the original Paper Mario. So,
you think?
Yeah, I mean, just
both the N64 and the GameCube weren't hugely popular consoles.
No, but the N64 sold almost 10 million more units.
Yeah, that's true.
And Paper Mario was pretty popular.
And if you were into RPGs and had an N64, you probably had Paper Mario because, like, your other options were Quest and Hybrid
Heaven, yeah. Some pretty rough art. Well, you had Ogre Battle was on there, but not very many people played Ogre Battle.
Yeah, if you were cool enough to have Ogre Battle.
I'm finding now,
most of us weren't.
I'm finding now that so many people did not play Ogre Battle because it's funny and nice at the same time to cruise around Discords and Reddit and all these places that are just heaping praise on the Unicorn Overlord, and they're like, man, this game's so awesome. How come we haven't ever had anything like this before? And it's like, hey, there was. You just didn't play it.
Yep.
So yeah,
That's how it goes.
More people played Paper Mario than Ogre Battle. I guarantee it. Yeah, know what? I'm ready. I'll pick it up. I don't think I'm going to pick up Luigi's Mansion 2 again, but I'm definitely looking forward to Thousand Year Door. It's kind of strange to me that we would get a Luigi's Mansion 2 remake for the Switch. It hasn't been that long ago.
No, since the 3DS one.
Yeah, and that's what I like.
And the 3DS got Luigi's Mansion 1, and the Switch got Luigi's Mansion 3. Like, it is odd.
Yeah.
How much Luigi's Mansion we're getting to...
I would have much rather had, like, some other Nintendo stuff come over from the 3DS. Like, where's Ever Oasis? Like, there was lots of good,
Codename Steam, man.
Codename Steam. There we go.
Although I think as cheap as Codename Steam is for the 3DS, I would not want to pay $60 for it on Switch.
I think I've given away like 3 copies of Codename Steam, so I think everyone already has it by now. Every time I see it for $5, I think about buying it and just giving it away again. Because everybody should own a copy of that game. I think I still have 2. I have a sealed copy and a loose copy to play. But when you can get it for $5 sealed, like, you don't pass that up. You just do it. I guess we can do a little bit of housekeeping now that we've chatted for a little bit.
Welcome to RetroLogic. Here's your copy of Codename Steam and your Plock Jock membership card.
we could give away both. I one day I'm gonna 3D print a bunch of Plock Jock cards, like physical ones, and everyone can have their own Plock Jock card, a physical, real one in their hands. And it'll have to be did we make the Plock Jocks group? Like, I think it's red. I'll have to figure that out.
Oh yeah, we have to look at something back in the day.
But anyway, I think Sam his Mega Mondays are on hiatus as well. So he says, stay tuned. Once you get done moving, you'll start Mega Manin again.
Yeah, Mega Monday died just like Mega Man died back when Inafune left Capcom and they canceled all the Mega Man games. But it's okay. It'll be back. It'll come back just like Mega Man did.
Well, I'm saying hopefully Mega Mondays comes back better than Mighty Number 9 came back for Mega Man.
Well, not Mighty, no, more like Mega Man 11.
Well, Mega Man 11 was good though. So I mean, hopefully you're Mega Man 11 and not Mighty Number 9. Let's put it that way.
And let's just not talk about 10 because that's
all the Mighty Number.
Was awesome.
What was it? The Vita players that never got Mighty Number 9? Because I think everyone else got a copy.
I thought it was the Wii U.
No, the Wii U got it.
Oh, the Wii U got it, huh?
Yeah, the Wii U got... In fact, I think I have a Mighty Number 9 for Wii U. I don't think I've ever played it, but I had the 3DS one too, I think. Or maybe it's the 3DS. Maybe I'm thinking of this wrong. I was thinking it was the Vita, but maybe it's the 3DS that never got Mighty Number 9 when it was promised. Anyway, the game was not great. So we'll leave it at that. As far as On Topic Retro goes, we're going to be doing a Spanky's Quest episode. Hopefully record that Friday. Looks like everyone's on board to do so. And with that one closing out, I believe Bozo was the winner again. Bozo just cleans up the Retro Rewind Champions contest. He just comes in last minute, throws down a massive score that nobody's gonna even come close to. And
gotta up your game.
I know.
And I'm talking to myself because I tried with F-Zero. I didn't even try with Spanky's Quest. Yeah. I do want to play through the game really fast, like tomorrow night.
Oh, it's not. It doesn't take too long. It's a couple hours.
No.
But yeah, no. Bozo took home the win. He grabbed a $10 PlayStation gift card, and he's going to be on the episode to help us talk about it. It's a definitely an interesting game, if there were any other words to describe it. But other than Spanky's Quest, yeah, the monkey with sports balls. It's a really weird game.
Battling fruit.
Yeah, fruit enemies. not frenemies, but fruit enemies. And with the wrap up of Spanky's Quest, we are starting a new Retro Rewind this month, and it is Pokemon X and Y. I ran a survey to see what all everyone had. I picked the top 3 highest votes. Other than Gen 1. Gen 1 had the most out of everyone's survey. But we've already done an episode on Gen 1, so we don't need to do a second episode within 2 years. So we decided to play X and Y.
We did. I remember that because I did a Nuzlocke of Red.
We did. We both did Nuzlocke.
I still remember my Growlithe getting KO'd by a Voltorb that self-destructed.
And you had to get rid of it.
Yeah, had to axe him.
Yeah.
I was so close to finally getting a. No, I had the Firestone by that point. I think I was waiting because Arcanine back in the early games, Arcanine wouldn't learn any moves after you evolved Growlithe. So I was waiting till he learned Flamethrower.
That was a really odd decision on some of the early. Excuse me, the early Pokemon games, certain ones, if you evolved them early, they didn't learn their moves until either really late or not at all.
Well, you didn't have a move tutor either. Later games, you could always move tutor.
Yeah,
those
you can
moves.
you can fix that. But some of the early Pokemon, they didn't learn moves until level 50, level 60. It's
there was just not a lot of move variety, period.
Yeah.
Amongst Pokemon, and literally no good bug moves in Gen 1.
Yeah, no, Gen 1 was, if you were playing with bugs, you were having a bad day. It was not good for bugs.
No, bugs were designed to be a garbage type.
Yep.
Basically.
They got fixed later, though.
Yeah. Somewhat, at least.
Better than they were. I mean, it's better than being, I think, weak to
Ice.
5 of the Pokemon types outside of itself.
Ice, which resists only itself, with 5 weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, and there was only 2 ice Pokemon, so you didn't have to really worry about it. 2 or 3, there wasn't a whole lot of ice ones.
Yeah.
Articuno, and I think Cloyster was maybe ice at that time.
The thing is, Cloyster is actually pretty good overall.
But he is good, super high special defense. I just don't think there was that many. He might not even have been an ice Pokemon in Gen 1. I can't remember.
No, he was ice water.
Was he?
He was always ice water.
Okay. But anyway, we're not playing Gen 1. We're playing Gen 6. And I think a lot of that was just people riding the high of getting a new Legends game that's going to tie into Gen 6 in some fashion. Or speculation be that it will tie into Gen 6. So I think everyone's wanting to go back and replay it. I'm definitely having fun. This is probably a really weird comment, but I think I like the graphics of the 3DS Pokemon better than the new games. They're that good sweet spot where they're better than the Game Boy game graphics, but I don't expect as much of them, I guess.
I can see it. Well, it's sort of like seeing, it's sort of like how Mii's look way better than the weird non-Mii avatars in Switch Sports.
Yeah.
Obviously those other avatars are more detailed, but they just look worse.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I guess I know what I'm getting with it, I guess. I'm not disappointed. It doesn't stutter. It doesn't, it's not overly detailed. It still looks like the anime, I guess. The new games just look, I don't know. They just got problems. So I'm kind of glad to go back. I almost a month ago restarted Pokemon Black because I I've never finished Gen 5, so I was like, I want to go back and try again. And then this came around. Tim requested we do this, and I was kind of hoping the Gen 5 would win secretly, but I knew it wasn't going to. It didn't even make it into the voting because of how little amount
Gen
of people
5
have it. Yeah, it's always the one Pokemon game that I'm always super interested in, and I like the idea of it, how they kind of just threw everything away and they started fresh. Like, I kind of wish we would do that
They
again.
almost did that with Gen 3. There were only a few returning Pokemon.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, Gen 5 is completely, like, they started fresh.
Until the post-game.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how
until you beat the Elite Four. Yeah.
Once you get to post game, then everything's it's unlimited. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I still remember how Sword and Shield was with the National Dex. They didn't do the National Dex.
Well, yeah,
only 600 out of
within. Yeah,
Pokemon.
There's only 6. Well, yeah, but even out of that 600, somebody's favorite Pokemon got left out. Come on. But no, I'm all for that. I think I would really enjoy if they did just kind of, I have my favorite Pokemon too, but if they would just clean it out, give me all brand new Pokemon so you can kind of have that experience.
Well, the thing that always got me is they wanted to bring all the old Pokemon, all the returning Pokemon back, but yet every generation they have to reinvent Pidgey, they have to reinvent Caterpie. Like, there's always a new one, right? There's always a new Route 1 garbage normal type.
Yep.
There's always a Route 1 bird. Although the Route 1 birds have started to get, like, really good. If you haven't noticed, like Corviknight, Talonflame, those are, like, top tier.
I was going to say the what is it? The first version of Talonflame. I just caught one in Gen 6. I can't remember what
and it's nice that they've started giving them types other than normal flying. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things helping them. But, like, I mean, Talonflame is just very tuned for hit fast, hit hard. And Corviknight is like a better version of Skarmory.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I always wanted Skarmory to be cool, and he never was all that cool. You do get Steel Wing, though.
Yep.
Anyway, we're playing Gen 6. Anybody wants to join up with us? We're talking about it. It's kind of been the life of the Discord here the last couple days. Everyone's hopping in and playing. There's been a lot more discussion in my channel than what there normally is. Seems like we're having a lot more participation than what we've traditionally had for Retro Rewind.
Everybody plays Pokemon, I think the only game you'd get more participation on is probably Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll have to, at some point, do a Mario Kart episode, I guess.
Or a Diddy Kong Racing episode.
Yeah, Diddy Kong Racing.
That's not on the app, though.
No.
Still be a good one.
Might break the rules for that one. It's somewhat readily available. Anybody that has a DS or a 3DS can also play it on there. So, and it's cheap. I think you can still get a copy for like $20. Let's see. Going down the list, we have Filmlogic, and they just put out an episode on Oscar talk, all about the Oscars that I didn't watch. I'm not an Oscar person.
No, I'm not an awards person, really.
Yeah.
At least not these days. No. It's odd because I have thought about the sort of relationship that awards or sort of like a critic class has, because you see that in film. Like there's movies for the critics, there's movies for the the blockbusters, the general audiences. You don't necessarily, I think, have that in games. Like there are games that are like critically praised but don't sell well, I guess. But it doesn't seem to be the same kind of.
It's not on the
thing.
same level. No.
Yeah.
And then we have RetroGroove and was that Khruangbin?
Khruangbin, yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that Adam will correct me after listening to this, but yeah, RetroGroove, they're doing music stuff with Khruangbin, I guess. Let's butcher that one, and then we'll use that as a segue to go to Prices Retro, which I won't butcher. Well, I know exactly how to say that. So let's play some Prices Retro. You ready?
Yes.
This is your first time playing Prices Retro with us. Here's how we play. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever's the closest to the actual value wins that round. Everyone has a list. Everyone guesses on each other's list. At the end, the player that won the most rounds wins the episode. We don't have to watch out for the robot. He's retiring.
Robot's retiring.
And he was kind of underutilized this season because for most of it, it's just been Sam and I. And
yeah, we've had a lot of duels.
So definitely, kind of maybe we'll have to bring the robot back at some point.
Well, I think
guaranteed to have more
season.
people.
I think the season after next, once we have the robot. And we're introducing, I don't know if this is set in stone, but a dinosaur next time who's going to have his own way of guessing. And we'll just have the dinosaur and the robot and Poltergeist all just battle each other every week. And we'll just give them lists.
And see who wins. Maybe we'll keep the robot and just add the dinosaur in because the robot's calculation's already set. So
that's true.
It's easy enough to just have him and the dinosaur. It'll be kind of like a rampage of sorts. But yeah, so hopefully once we get more people on the show, then the robot will be more utilized. But anyway, that's how we play. And Sam, you can go first since I'm reading the prompter.
Okay. I have a list of 5 games this week, and they are all the same console, same condition. So these are all Neo Geo Pocket Color games, and they are all loose. Okay. So I've got SNK versus Capcom Card Fighter Clash, SNK version.
Okay.
SNK versus Capcom Card Fighter Clash, Capcom version. King of Fighters R2, Dark Arms Beastbusters 1999, and Metal Slug First Mission. And those are all, once again, loose for the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just going to do an even 200.
200 even. That is very close. Total value is $182.66.
$182.66.
Yep. And this is actually a lot of games I just purchased as a lot and received them today.
Nice.
Because I got my adapters for my analog pocket, and of course I intend to use them. So I need some Neo Geo games.
You didn't get a copy of Biomotor Unitron?
No, I did not. That one is out of my price range.
Yeah, I think that's like a $70.
It's on Switch, actually.
Yeah, I bought it and played it on Switch.
Might be worth playing, actually. It seems interesting.
It's fun.
No, so do you want to guess how much I paid for them? Because it was not $182.
Knowing you, I'm going to say $120.
Lower than that. It was $95 plus tax and shipping.
Did you find somebody that had all of them?
Yeah, all 5 of them. They're in really good condition, too. I mean, like,
Nice.
look at that. Look at that. Dark
Pristine.
Arms right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have Dark Arms. I think I have
That
all the
is
other
on
ones.
one of the collections, actually. It's a very interesting game.
I do have Dark Arms.
It is on the Neo Geo Pocket collection, yeah. Actually. It's a very interesting game, though. I played a little bit of it just a couple hours ago.
I have physical carts of the other ones, though. And I do have... I also have this one.
Oh, well, that's Sonic. That doesn't matter. It's Sonic.
I bring that up because Dan would rather play Sonic on Neo Geo than any of the other games on Neo Geo. There's my card clash. One of them. What else do I got?
Probably hasn't played Dark Arms, though.
Have you played... Oh, yeah, you need to get Dive Alert.
Yeah, I've looked into that. That would be cool.
I think I've got another one.
Of course, with the adapter set, too, that opens up Turbo Graphics. Although the games that aren't on the Mini that are affordable is a very small subset. It's mostly sports games.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a bunch of sports games and stuff that you don't want to play. Oh, yeah. And then I also have Metal Slug First Mission. So, yeah. I think I have all of them.
Atari Lynx. Get some Atari Lynx games. Open to recommendations on that.
This is one you need right here. Shadow of the Beast.
Shadow of the Beast.
And this one is Pinball Jam.
Pinball Jam.
2 that I just recently picked up. This one has a Pinball Jam starts you out on an Elvira table. It's kind of weird. I want to say it's Midway. It is. Yep, Midway. So it's like some old Midway pinball tables stuff.
Yeah, based on their tables.
Yep. It's all right. I'm enjoying it so far. I've played a little bit of both of them on my Pocket.
I got really into Pokemon pinball. This is just turning into a Pokemon episode.
This is, and it's not intentional.
Really into Pokemon.
There's no strategy in Pokemon.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see.
Right.
Let me do my list, and then we'll see who wins here real quick. So these are all strategy games. They're not all RPGs, as we were talking about earlier. I also have a 5-game list, and these are all complete in box. The first game is Into the Breach for the Nintendo Switch. The second game is Tactics Ogre, The Knight of Lotus for the Game Boy Advance. The third game is Fire Emblem Awakening for the Nintendo 3DS. The fourth game is Valkyria Chronicles 2 for the PSP. And the last game is Advance Wars 2 for the Game Boy Advance. All complete in box.
I'm going to go with just 350.
Okay.
I might be way off. And it's because of Ogre Battle.
Yeah. I mean, you're not way off.
Okay.
You're still fairly close. I think you'd have been better off if you would have guessed like the Ghost.
I was probably thinking loose price of Ogre Battle.
But the total of my lot is $314.60.
Oh, I was over.
Yeah, you were over just by a hair. Which I think I was a little bit closer.
Yeah, you were like 20. You were like 20 over.
So I'm reeling you in here. The breakdown Into the Breach for the Nintendo Switch complete in box, $32.24. The next game, Tactics Ogre, The Knight of Lotus, for the Game Boy Advance complete in box, $151.75.
Okay.
So
I think
pricey.
I was thinking 180 for it, but yeah.
The third game, Fire Emblem Awakening for the Nintendo 3DS, $33.33.
Yep.
Thought that was
I was
kind of
thinking
funny.
$30 there. It sold pretty well, so I figured
There's a
plenty
bunch
copies
of them
it around.
The fourth game, Valkyria Chronicles 2 for the PSP, $31.99. It's pretty reasonable if you have a PSP, and it's a pretty good game.
Yeah, there aren't too many super like expensive PSP games. There just aren't a lot of PSP collectors.
There's some, but
few.
most of them are like anime RPGs that are very obscure, is what I've noticed.
More obscure than Valkyria Chronicles.
Yes,
which is
definitely.
Already,
Yeah, since they've remade the first game or at least re-released it for newer consoles, and then with 4, I think it's getting a little bit more widespread. I think more people have played it. The last game on my list, Advance Wars 2 for the Game Boy Advance, complete in box, is $65.29, which is really not that bad.
Yeah, I think it was over on that one too.
For a complete in box Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah, complete in box portable games tend to be pricey.
I have the original game complete in box.
I don't think I gave the breakdown on my list.
No, you had me guess how much you paid instead.
I did not. Yeah.
You can go through.
I just wanted to get the SNK Card Fighters Clash SNK version $42. The Capcom version is $58. So I guess the SNK version sold a little more at first. Maybe kind of makes sense since it's the platform it's on. Metal Slug First Mission $31.78. Dark Arms $40 flat, and King of Fighters R2 $18.30. So, kind of all around that $30 to $40 price range, really.
It's kind of what I was thinking whenever I made my guess. I was like trying to add it up on my head. I knew how much the card fighter games were, and I knew how much Dark Arms was. And I was trying to remember, one of the first mission is not very expensive. Second mission is outrageous. Metal Slug. So if you try to get Metal Slug second mission, I think it's like $120 or something like that. Something stupid.
Why is that?
I think I don't think it's sold as well.
Just one Metal Slug. Might have been near the end of the. I mean, Neo Geo Pocket didn't have the longest life, so it could have been I don't know when the release was, but it might have been as the platform was fading too. Late in life games tend to always be rare later. Oh yeah,
and the fighter game I just kind of guessed on. I don't have that one, so that one was new to me. So yes, I was $17.34 off from your lot. You were $35.40 off, which means I take that game. Which puts us at, try to do some quick, throwing it in the spreadsheet real quick. That puts us at, you win. You won the season.
Still, yeah, I think I was up 2.
You were up 2, so this game was
at least I put up a fight on this last one, I did bring my A game.
So, with this being the end of the season, that makes you the champion for this season. That means we've had a different champion all three seasons. Birthed a different champion, because I think either I won the first season or Dan did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we swapped on the next one. And then it was and then now you're the winner. So now we just need to have a guest that can come on enough times to beat us at our own game, and we'll have
there we go,
a guest winner.
Time to step up.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess Dan only was on the show long enough this season to rack up 2 wins. We did have 2 guests win, and the robot won once, which I think is something I don't know that the Ghost ever won. I don't think Poltergeist. I don't remember him
I
winning
don't think
one.
he ever won a show. He definitely won rounds.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he won. No, I take that back. By looking back at the log, he's won at least 3 times.
3 times. There you see.
Yep.
And I have to remind people too, I'm the original Poltergeist. That was the very first the very first Price is Retro win I had. I just guessed 300 on every lot, and I won. That's why it's a good guess for 3 to 5 games. If you are not intentionally selecting cheap or expensive games, the value tends to get somewhat close to 300 a lot of the time.
It does. And it's funny because I remember when we first brought the robot in, I was thinking there's no way this guy's going to win. Like after we had 2 episodes of him, and then he won on the 3rd episode. So I spoke too soon. But yep. Nope. That closes out Price is Retro for season 3. When season 4 rolls around, in a couple of weeks, we'll have already figured out what the dinosaur will do, and we'll update that for that episode. So look forward to season 4 of Price is Retro. And I do have a trivia card. I almost forgot. Let me grab that really quick. See if we can stump Sam again. Wait. I think that's one we've already done. Okay, we'll try this one. What is the name of the revolutionary militia group that was led by Marlene in the video game The Last of Us?
Is it called The Last of Us?
Nope.
Oh, no title drop.
No title drop.
You know, every time they remake Last of Us, I get less interested in it.
Yeah, I played it when it originally came out. I have not played it since, and I have not played the second game. It's on the backlog. The answer is Fireflies.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Let's see. The facility, surface, frigate are levels in which classic Nintendo 64 game?
Facility, surface, and frigate. Is that GoldenEye?
That is GoldenEye 007.
Okay. Okay. I was not sure about that. Like, I've been open too about, I kind of missed the boat on GoldenEye. I actually, it's mostly because I was not allowed to play it when it came out due to my age at the time. It was rated T for teen because I was sheltered.
Yeah, I could see that. I played a bunch of it when it came out, but I was already a teen, so that helps. I will never forget.
I don't know how many other people that was a thing for, because most people's parents didn't care much, especially at that level. Like they'd keep you from playing the M-rated ones, but
yeah,
I can remember the first T. I can remember the first T for teen rated game I was allowed to play, and it was Super Smash Bros. Melee. That's the reason I know it was rated T for teen, because I had to make an appeal.
I think, isn't that the only?
It's very odd, because I think, I don't know if E10 and up just didn't exist at that point, or if people were just still figuring out what belonged where. Because I mean, Smash 4, like Brawl was E10 and up.
Yeah,
and I think 64 was E.
Yeah, I don't think E10 and up existed yet. They've made lots
of
changes.
So I can sort of see if that rating didn't exist. Age ratings are weird, though. I mean, there's the whole thing with movies and PG-13 being this weird limbo for everything. But
yeah, it kind of seems to be a catch-all. I never thought I'd be that parent, but I've had to be that parent now, because I do have some kids that are like right under teen level or right at teen level. and then I've got some that are older, than that now, and kind of gatekeeping what movies I think they should be watching.
Oh no, I especially these days, because the consensus on what's age appropriate, I think, has shifted, and if you're not okay with that, you need to be well, and that's the thing I really appreciated about my parents, is that they were not woodenly applying that age rating. I was able to say, look, Smash Bros doesn't have anything in it that would be a problem. Like at that point, at that age for me, they read that they actually wanted to know what were the descriptors on the back of the box. Is it comic mischief, right? Is it
exactly.
And the things they were concerned about is they didn't want anything with blood. They didn't want anything with swearing. At T for Teen, that's pretty much the main concern. Like,
yeah,
other stuff is probably going to either push it up to an M rating or not be something you need to worry about. So,
yeah, comic mischief was pretty common. The thing, though,
cartoon violence.
I kind of wish there were ratings for books.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm running into my daughter wanting to read certain books, and then I don't, with books, it's a little bit harder to tell what's inside of a book.
Yeah, it's really hard to read it yourself.
Yeah, I'm not going to read all these, young adult novels that she wants to read. She liked Harry Potter, and then she, starting to get into, she liked the Twilight stuff, and that's kind of edgy for a 13-year-old. My wife watched the movies with them, with my daughter and my son, who were in their teens. But the books, I think, are even a little more descriptive than what you get in the movies, as far as some of the romance things that are happening there. So yeah, and now she gets all the, she looks for things of that type of genre of books, and she'll bring stuff up to my attention that I'm like, yeah, I've never heard of this book, and then I have to do a search on the internet and try to see what the internet thinks about a book. And then it'd be so much easier if there was ratings for books, so that I could know what was inside without having to basically either read a Cliff's Notes on the book or find somebody else that's read the book and has an opinion on it that might match what I'm looking for. But yeah, no, definitely with video games, it's a lot easier as a media to know what you're getting into. Maybe even more so than most, than movies.
And that's because of Backlash back in the day, right?
Yeah, we can thank Mortal Kombat for that. They kind of set everything straight.
Thanks, Mortal Kombat. You made games more wholesome for everyone.
Yeah. Unintentionally, but it did happen. But anyway, I think we need to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll actually talk a little bit about strategy RPGs and maybe even just some strategy games in general that we can toss in there because we like them a lot. Talk strategy RPGs and lightly some maybe other games that are not quite what we consider a strategy RPG.
What is an RPG, really?
Yeah, exactly.
We've had that conversation before. Yeah. So if we don't know what an RPG is, then we probably don't know what a strategy RPG is.
It's a rocket propelled grenade.
Yeah. Well, if it's if it's part of a series that people call an RPG, and then there's a spin-off with the word tactics on the end of it, odds are you're looking at a strategy RPG.
Which reminds me, where is Metal Slug Tactics?
I don't know.
When was that
It's
announced? Like
gone
that's been a
silent.
couple years ago,
It's
right?
like years ago. Yeah, at least one full year ago.
It's had to have been longer than that. I'm so excited for that game. And then yeah, like you said, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah,
It's radio
there is a whole
silent.
spate of like tactics RPGs. They're like cool again. Um, and that was the one I was looking forward to the most.
They're cool again and they're more accessible, I guess would be a good
Yeah.
uh they're not as hard as nails as they used to be. It used to be a hard genre to get into if it wasn't for the faint to get in there and
Well,
have all your
and I
characters
think too,
die and
you're blending together two genres that are both known to be very time consuming, and so a
yeah.
lot of these games, especially I've noticed going back to old ones, can be very slow paced. Because modern strategy RPGs often have a fast forward feature on battle animations. They often just run a lot faster. Um, Playing some of these like PS1 games, like it's kind of painful after getting used to the
Yeah.
pace of modern stuff.
Well, yeah, and I mean when you start talking PS1, now you're talking load times. Also getting thrown in there with
Yep, load
an already
times are in
slow
there.
game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like move your unit, wait 10 seconds for it to get over there because the animation would exist so that it could load. Yeah, no, it's definitely not a quick game to play. As far as that genre goes, you're going to be looking at least 30 to 40 hours of gameplay when you're playing one of these games. So that kind of puts a wrench in some people's taste for these games. But these are games that I learned to love during the Super Nintendo era, and every time a new one comes out, I like to at least try them. I might not stick with them as for the whole time, but it's always worth taking a gander and seeing what has changed. Sometimes the games are good just for the characters. Maybe it's a series that you really like that, like you said, kind of previously existed as an RPG, and then they made it into a tactics game. Which, kind of whenever SteamWorld Heist came out, I was kind of hoping that it had more RPG elements to it, but it's kind of more of like a shooter, I guess, in a weird way. That game is like a genre of its own.
Yeah, I haven't played I haven't played it myself, but I've seen it. I kind of think of it as the 2D version of Valkyria Chronicles.
Yes, but I don't think that you gain
Codename
levels
Steam.
in the game.
You don't? Okay. You don't in Codename Steam really either. You get upgrades. You get more steam.
That's what. Yeah, I think with
you power up your weapons, but I think it happens just with story progression.
Yeah, I think with I think you progress through weapons and armor with SteamWorld Heist. I don't think I could totally be wrong. It's been shoot, man, that game came out.
No, that is an interesting thing.
Now.
Not to get back to the what's an RPG thing, because I think for a lot of people it comes down to a character progression thing. I would suggest that upgrading weapons, etc., through currency is really no different than experience points. Depending on how loot. They actually function in the game. Yeah. Well, even like loot though, I think when it's fungible in a way that you can allocate it and it does improve your character, it's not too different from, to me that's not a huge difference. It's mostly a contextual difference of it might not be intrinsic to that character, but the point is because like what's the difference then between earning skill points and spending skill points to upgrade a skill tree? Like
Well,
those are almost the same thing in my mind.
that was something that I was going to bring up with RPGs. You know, a lot of people try to associate it with gaining a level or leveling your character up. But what's the difference between leveling up a character or leveling up a weapon? And does leveling have to have a numerical value attached to it? You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, games figure out ways to progress characters without a numerical level. You know, sometimes.
And then you have a game like Dark Arms, where your weapons gain experience and evolve like they're Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because that's just how that game works.
That's what I'm saying. It's, you know, we could go round and round to try to describe an RPG. It's different to different people, but as long as you're not saying that Zelda's an RPG, I'm okay with lots of other explanations for RPGs.
So, strategy RPGs, some might be more strategy, some might be RPG. Generally, there are going to be some strategy games that we wouldn't call that, though. I think we discussed this a little bit before, but a game like Advance Wars, fantastic game, strategy game, not an RPG game. A tactics game, even. Probably more a tactics game. If you want to get real into the semantics, you could differentiate between strategy and tactics.
Yes, but, or grid-based combat versus, you know, non-grid, and there's all kinds, but definitely there's no character progression in Advance Wars, and this is kind of where we drew the line there. All your units stay the same unless you upgrade them in the map, but then that's just an upgrade. That's not...
Dual Strike does allow you to improve your COs and earn skill points for them, but it's pretty minor. I can see that, but that's kind of like Warcraft 3 adding heroes into an RTS that they can level up. So that's an RTS RPG. Yep.
You know, that's the core of the game is not based around the heroes, is what I'm saying. So like, I don't know that I would necessarily consider that an RPG. But anyway, we're trying to do a top 5, I guess. We don't want to be here all night.
So
we want to talk about.
Do we want to count up, or do we want to just throw our list for consideration? Do you want me to just give you my list?
No, let's go start with 5, and we'll work our way down to our top game. Yep, and then we can talk about maybe some games that fell right outside.
Yep,
some honorable
mentions.
I have
quite a list of honorable mentions, actually.
All right, you can go first. What's your number 5?
All right, my number 5 is one I think. Well, my number 5 is Final Fantasy Tactics A2. I think Final Fantasy Tactics is very much expected on a list like this. It's kind of the bar against which you would measure, I think, every other strategy RPG. It's the reason so many other strategy RPGs are the name of an RPG series with tactics appended to the end, I think. I don't know if it's actually the first, but it seems to be the trendsetter in that respect in a lot of ways. And so A2, because it's actually the only Final Fantasy Tactics game I've played. I know there's some differences. I would like to explore Tactics Advance and the original Tactics, but it's. I think it's pretty much it's like the Mario of platformer, as Mario is to platforming games, like Final Fantasy Tactics is to strategy RPGs, I would say.
So, it's not the first game to do this.
Not the first.
Because Ogre Battle did it, but they just put tactics in the front.
Tactics Ogre, yeah.
Yes.
Well, so see, that I did wonder about that, because I think most have imitated the later formula. You know,
they did,
Metal Slug Tactics.
Well, and that's why I was going to say that Final Fantasy Tactics definitely was a bigger seller, and it had the driving force of Final Fantasy behind it that kind of, pushed that. The amount of people that played, Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen was very few and far between, and then the second game was a totally different genre from the first game. And they're considered in the series to be the same series. So it's not even, they don't even consider it a spin-off. It was just, first game was like this, second game is a tactics strategy RPG that's totally different from the original game. So with Final Fantasy Tactics, it's just considered a spin-off. They don't, it's not a mainline game. And then maybe that could be why we don't have as many Ogre Battle games today, is because they put them in the same series and then nobody played them.
Could be.
But yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics, definitely a good choice. I did not play this on PlayStation, but I did play the Game Boy Advance version.
I thought Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is a separate game. Right?
It's a separate game, but it's story wise. But I mean, it's the same game as far as how it works. So that was the point at which I entered the series.
It's like a sub-series. Yeah.
Correct. Just like the Tactics Ogre game for Game Boy Advance is a different game than Tactics Ogre on Super Nintendo and PlayStation. I think it's a prequel of sorts. But yeah, that's when I hopped in. Game Boy Advance seemed like it had just a plethora of strategy RPGs and RPGs come into it as a console. Did you have anything else you want to say about Final Fantasy Tactics before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. So I had to make a hard decision for my number 5 right off the bat. So I knew it was going to be a Fire Emblem game. And I was trying to make a decision between the original Game Boy Advance game that I played first or Three Houses, which I played last. And as much as I liked the Game Boy Advance game, I think I had more fun with Three Houses, so I chose Three Houses. I mean, I played that game twice, like back to back, without even thinking about it. Like, so that's
I find the Game Boy
decision.
Advance games a little bit difficult to go back to be honest. Like they're just a lot more basic.
The quality of life improvements that have been made in the later games in the series are huge. I mean, they definitely kind of make the experience just fun. Like, there's definitely more fun to be had without trying to go backwards in the series, for sure. I get almost
the
I wish I
the
would have liked
Tellius
Awakening
games are still my favorite. The Tellius games are still my favorite. I also have a soft spot for Fire Emblem Echoes as well. I thought that was really good. I think it's actually the best 3DS Fire Emblem.
I haven't played all of Echoes, and I totally missed the GameCube game and the Wii game. So they came.
But I mean, some of that is just the impressions too. Radiant Dawn was my first, which is a very weird one to start on, and I think that colored my impressions too. It's also known for being like one of the hardest games, and that's probably why I think every Fire Emblem game after is too easy. Unless it's on the highest difficulty, which is usually a stupid difficulty.
Yeah, it's not made to be played in. They just added it for fun.
Especially Awakening. I have some... Yeah.
So I really liked Awakening, but not to the level that I liked Three Houses. And I think that's because Awakening was the first game to kind of change things for Fire Emblem. I don't think it was all hashed out yet. I think they just kind of got better as they went after that. I didn't play a whole lot of... I didn't play a whole lot of... what was it? Was it Conquest?
Fates, I think, is the...
Fates.
Yeah.
Fates
is the general term for it. It was
Well, it's
Fates,
Fates, and then
Birthright,
there was
Conquest,
Birthright.
Revelation.
Yeah,
and Revelation was the like golden route path.
Was that the DLC? Was it a DLC for them? There wasn't a third physical game, was
there was not a third physical game.
That's what I was thinking. Because I think I have both of them.
Each game could be DLC for the other, though, as well as the third.
Yep.
I think if you got the collector's edition, they were actually both on the cartridge, though.
They were. I remember that. Anyway, yes, Three Houses. That's mine. I still need to go back and do that last playthrough of that game, and one day I'll get to it. Still have one more house to do. What's your number 4 game? Let's keep on moving.
So my number 4 might be some pushback on whether or not this counts as much of an RPG, but my number 4 is XCOM 2. This is the reboot series after Enemy Unknown. So the most recent game, XCOM 2, War of the Chosen was the DLC for it. Love this game. Is it an RPG? I think so. Your units gain experience based on how many kills they accumulate. They unlock new skills, a skill tree. You're also improving your base, upgrading your technology, upgrading your weapons. I think it counts. Less of an RPG, I'll admit, than the others. But yeah, Enemy Unknown, I think, really set a bar for tactics games. A lot of games since have imitated it in terms of just its approach to using cover, to calculating hit ratios. I mean, you see samples of its interface even in stuff like Mario plus Rabbids. It is definitely influenced by XCOM. And XCOM 2, I think, was a great improvement on the formula. The main reason I prefer XCOM 2 is they have this system in it that makes it so that you start missions in a kind of stealth state, which makes it much faster and easier to safely explore the map without getting pinned into a terrible situation. Because playing XCOM, especially if you upped the difficulty, playing Enemy Unknown, you pretty much had to crawl really slowly through the stage at the beginning when you didn't know where enemies were, and just make sure that you were always overwatching at the end of every movement. Because if you triggered enemies to spread out and start shooting you at the wrong time, like when you'd already moved the rest of your team, the rest of your squad, you would get slaughtered. Whereas 2 makes that less of a problem. And it's not just an issue of the difficulty, it's that the way to play around it was to basically do this super safe slow crawl across the map, which just slowed things down. And so I think 2 addressed that really well.
Nice.
And if you need a game that is like XCOM, this is an honorable mention, but I'll just throw it out there now since it's similar. If you need a game that is like XCOM and a little bit more RPG, and on the Game Boy Advance, you should check out Rebel Star Tactical Command. It's actually very similar, right down to being about humans fighting against aliens.
Huh. I don't know that I've heard of it. I'll have to check it out. All right. My number 4 is Valkyria Chronicles, the original game. I even replayed it through it at the end of last year. I played it. This is a weird game to me because I played through the game originally. Well, I started to play through it on PS3 and did not like it as much, and sat it down. And whenever 4 came out, they put out the re-release. I think it's considered a remaster, but it's just a re-release. I mean, it came out on PS3. It was already HD. So but anyway, they put out a version of it on the Switch at the same time as 4, and I bought it, and I bought 4 after playing that one because it was cheaper. So I was like, I need to revisit the series. So I bought the first game, played through it, and then I bought 4 after I played through it. And I really enjoyed it on the Switch. Like, it was a fun game. I don't know why it didn't click with me at first. I think just dealing with some of the randomness that comes along with the game, and the fact that it's more of a shooter, I guess, than a traditional strategy RPG. It took a little bit to get used to, but once you do get used to it, it's pretty fun. Like, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Enough to put it on my list.
Yeah, I have played this one. I mean, I enjoyed it enough to play through to the end. I remember getting very frustrated at trying to suss out the exact range enemies had before they would like fire at you when you were trying to move past them, because that's just not obvious in the game.
It's not. I feel like they do a better job in 4 with it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's very easy to get sniped and you not know about it until it's too late.
Ultimately, not for me. Kind of cool as a concept. I mean, the same issues are there, I think, in Codename Steam as well, which uses a similar kind of system. But, you know, there's still a lot to enjoy, I think, based on the setting, the characters, and it's something different at least.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, one of the first things that I noticed about it is it's a little bit more story-driven than, you know, something like, say, Final Fantasy Tactics, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And all the characters have pretty good depth. The idea that, like, when you're putting your squad together, you know, being able to recruit certain characters that will boost other characters that are on your team based on relationship stuff. Like, I guess it gets more like Fire Emblem-y. Fire Emblem-y.
More Three Houses-y.
Yes,
especially.
more Three Houses-y. So I guess that's maybe why I like that aspect of it. I like being able to... I like the idea of building units, you know, to work as a team. But it's definitely something I enjoyed. I highly recommend it for anyone that hasn't played it. And it's usually, like, deeply discounted. So definitely worth trying out. All right, what about you? Number 3.
My number 3 will probably be pleasing to you, unless you think it should be number 1. My number 3 is Tactics Ogre. Of course, I played this on the Switch remake, which is quite different from what I understand. Especially in just terms of rebalancing. So I actually do wonder what I would think of the original.
It makes a lot of sense.
But I love the Switch version.
The original game was a Super Famicom game. Just to kind of put it in perspective, the kind of balancing you... I mean, it would have probably been like trying to go back and play the original Fire Emblem games, you know, going back that far. It's an old game, so yeah, they definitely needed to do some things to it to make it a little bit more accessible, I think. If they would have just re-released it in its original state, I don't think it would have went over as well.
I think what I understand to be one of the biggest differences too is the original game, I've heard, could actually get kind of grindy at points.
Yep.
Whereas the remake actually like throttles you so that you can't grind. So you level up kind of quickly, but you hit your chapter level ceiling very fast. So the game basically holds you to a certain level range at all times, which I actually appreciate. I think this is an issue a lot of strategy RPGs have, is the ability to compensate for a lack of strategy by over-leveling yourself, even to do so unintentionally. If the game's too generous with experience points, you wind up not experiencing strategy, right? Not needing it, and not even really realizing what you know, really like necessity drives a lot of that understanding the systems. You won't be, if you're not forced to engage with those systems, right? If charging headfirst at the enemy works well enough,
Why would you not do it?
then why not do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not a strategy game at that point.
No.
So I think this is an issue a lot of games can run into. But you also don't want the game to just be like stupid frustrating, right?
Exactly. It's a hard balance.
So it is a balance.
Like I said, I think this is a similar issue that early Fire Emblem games struggle with, in the same regard. And that's
and another thing
why
I
the game
appreciated,
shifted.
And I think, is this exclusive to the remake as well? That your party levels, right, in Tactics Ogre,
yes,
like it's not individualized experience points. Was that the case in the original?
No, in the original it was individuals.
Because that's another issue I've seen in a lot of especially strategy RPGs, because they emphasize character leveling, individual characters with unique traits that level up and gain abilities.
Yep.
And you have this issue where oftentimes a very easy, foolproof plan for getting through the game is to just dump all your experience points on the main character and have him just stomp every enemy. Because depending on what other systems are in play, whether or not, he's got like limited ammo or what have you, or how hard the XP curve hits, where you're just not getting anything after a certain point. But like Fire Emblem games, that's often the way to do it. Like when I played through Lunatic mode, I did a no grind Lunatic mode on Awakening. I kind of cruised through it by just prioritizing like Chrom, Robin, and their kids. Those were the only units I leveled up. And even on Lunatic difficulty, they were stomping everybody at the end. I had to just rush bosses, but I was just warp staff rushing bosses for the last couple chapters.
Yep.
And it worked just fine.
I mean, this is like, I was going to bring this is like an issue from the dawn of these games. And it's something that even like playing Unicorn Overlord today, like it's very easy for some units to get leveled up faster than others, just based on the fact that they might have a stronger win condition over other units that might be more of, there might be more of those units on the map at any given time. You might be doing a battle that's more geared towards a certain unit. And then
Unicorn Overlord puts a severe throttle on XP for units that are like 2 levels above.
Yep.
I do appreciate that, actually.
It does, but it's still very easy to fall into using the same units over and over again if you're not trying to spread out your...
The bigger issue I've seen that Unicorn Overlord has is around the point in the game I'm at now, when you hit your Renown A and you can get five character units. Those 5 character units are so much stronger than your others. You're still deploying others, but it's like, I have
get
one
so many
more
actions out of that unit.
But you can't upgrade all your units to 5 right away, so you're really leaning on those for a bit.
Yeah. But there's different, I mean, they try to do some limiting of that by adding stamina to the units. So you can't just like fully go through and just knock out everything with one unit.
But anyway, that's Tactics Ogre. I think the remake helped it a lot. It was a little weird for me, I think. I'm okay with it, but I know a lot of people do not like playing games in the middle of a series. And this is very much in the middle of a series. Like, you're getting some backstory on things that happened in Ogre Battle, things that happened in things that would later be fleshed out in Night of Lotus, right?
And honestly,
and if you're not willing to just follow that, then it's confusing.
The story is hard to it's hard to go with. The whole story of Ogre Battle is really weird anyway, because it's like put into what they call like scenes or whatever, and like some of them never even got made. So like,
yeah,
it's hard to to parse out what's what a lot of times, but I think the plan was for there to be way more games in the saga, and it's never materialized. So, but anyway, my third game is also a Tactics Ogre game, but it's the Game Boy Advance game. It's the Knights of Lotus, and this is the one that I played the most of. It's kind of weird. I played March of the Black Queen later after Ogre Battle 64. That was my first Ogre Battle game, so I missed Tactics Ogre on PlayStation, which is the only place you could play it in the US. The Super Nintendo or Super Famicom version never got localized. So, and I didn't have a PlayStation, so I couldn't go back and play the original Tactics Ogre at that point in time. But I did have a Game Boy Advance, and I was fresh off of playing Ogre Battle 64, and I was like, this is another Ogre Battle game. And then I get it, and I'm like, this is not another Ogre Battle game. This is totally different. There's definitely some aspects to it, that reminded me, but for the most part, this game plays more like Final Fantasy Tactics, which I had already played since it came out first on the Game Boy Advance of those two games. And but it was refreshing to go back and get some more of that story. And it's a prequel to the original Tactics Ogre. And you kind of get some more background to what's going on in that campaign. But overall, it plays pretty close to the same. There's already some of the quality of life updates that you start to see in Reborn, but still definitely a good game. I'd go play it. I ended up losing my childhood copy, and I had to buy another one not too long ago to play it again. So yeah, Tactics Ogre sweeping number 3 across the RetroLogic board.
Here we go.
So what's your number 2?
My number 2 maybe should have been my number 3 because it's Triangle Strategy. 3 would have been more appropriate, but I actually bumped it all the way up to 2. I love Triangle Strategy. There are not a lot of games that I beat and immediately start another file and actually play that other file all the way through. Triangle Strategy completion is one of those games. And as we mentioned, these are long games. But yes, I've already I played it through twice, back to back. I'd probably play it again too if I had the time. But yeah, a lot of what I mentioned about Tactics Ogre, I think it handles the difficulty curve superbly, and even does better, I think, on the lower end of the difficulty. It has this great feature where if you fail a mission, you can start the mission over with the experience you earned from that failed attempt, which I think is a really good way to help players that are struggling. But it still is capped, so you can't just grind you can't just bash your head. You can't just charge the enemy straight forward until you're over leveled. But it does allow you to experiment, learn, and it gets a little bit easier with time if you're struggling. I think it does fantastic with story. Some of that's my own preferences. There's other games that people praise the stories of, and I'm scratching my head thinking, why would you think that's a good story? But Triangle Strategy is one I would actually hold up as a good example.
There's just so much detail and so many paths and character interaction.
Yeah, I mean, the complaints I've heard about it are more that the game's too slow to start because there's too much dialogue beginning. And
no, I thought
that's
it was great.
Fair, I guess. It is a bit of a slow start. I thought it was interesting enough to keep me engaged. I really appreciate for as many games as say things like, "Oh, your choices have consequences, and they'll pitch it that way. Like Triangle Strategy really puts meaningful choices in front of the player, and they're meaningful precisely because they're hard choices. They're
hard
like,
choices.
do you sell out your ally,
yeah,
or do you try to back him up, but also watch your whole country suffer as a result? And like,
there's always
there's no like easy out, and that's great.
I totally agree, and this game is also my number 2. So
there you go.
We kind of this was a game that I immediately like this. Whenever they announced it, like, and they announced that there was a collector's edition, I've hopped all over it because it had like some cool metal dice, and like this game just was all like this was a spiritual successor to like what we get from Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics. But in this case, you just get a better story than what you get in those games, and your choices do they make the game. Like, there's so many different paths, there's so many routes that you can take by choosing different things in this game, and the losses that you can accrue by making choices is pretty phenomenal that they could put it all together and make it work. That's always kind of the thing I worry about whenever you get games that have so many choices all the time is, can they put it all together? Can they make the story still good if you choose a path all the way across or something?
Well, and like, to be honest, I think later Fire Emblem games have really like written themselves into corners repeatedly with the need to they always want to sort of present this fork in the plot between like side with this faction, side with this other faction, and I think it always results in a little bit of incoherence where the world is entirely different based on that choice, and people behave entirely differently based on what one guy decided.
Yeah. Well, and even like in Three Houses, you're making choices, but even at like all the paths lead to the same result for the most part. And when you're playing all the houses, the things that are happening are the same within the houses. You're just getting a different perspective of what's going on. So I think that's kind of where you get your story split and your uniqueness is just playing all the houses. Because then you get the background of what's going on in the other house that you don't get from.
And even the fact that in Triangle Strategy, kind of underrated, but like the fact that these decisions aren't actually just yours, like they're a vote.
They're shared.
And you have to persuade other people to vote with you.
That was the cool part. Yeah, I liked that aspect of it. I liked some of the different classes that you get in that game, and what kind of abilities they use. I don't know that there's another strategy game like it right now. With as much,
I was sold instantly. I mean, on the whole, if I'm an RPG person, I'm a strategy RPG person first, and I loved Octopath Traveler. So when they're like, "Yeah, we're doing they could have just called it Octopath Tactics. I'm kind of glad they didn't. That it is a little bit more its own thing. But
they got to get better with their naming convention, though. Like
they do. I still think they should have just named this series like Scales of Conviction.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a great name for it. It's a central plot point. Either that or they just call it like the Salt Iron War or something like that.
Yeah, something that was more relatable than Triangle Strategy. Whenever, seeing that name, we were like, and then it was a working title. We all knew that that's what the name was going to be.
Yep.
Just based off of how Octopath went.
Yep.
But no, definitely a great game. Go play that one. It's been out long enough to get a hold of pretty easily now. I don't know that it ever goes on sale since I bought my copy. I haven't really looked, but it's worth full price. Go buy it now.
Yeah. Triangle Strategy, man.
Triangle Strategy.
But it's not number one.
Yep.
My number one is a PC game. Shock.
Ooh.
Crusader Kings 3. And yes, it is an RPG. Dare I say it, and I have said it before. Crusader Kings is the role-playingest game that I have ever played. I know that's not a word. But when you talk about what's an RPG, and people say, well, it means role-playing, it means a game where you play a role, and then you get people who will say everything's an RPG, because every time you play a game, you're playing the role of the player of the game, and it devolves into nonsense. But no, I really mean that when I say Crusader Kings is very much a role-playing game, because playing your role is a mechanic in the game. So technically, you control a dynasty. So when your current player character dies, his primary inheritor will be your new player character. So some people actually talk about it like you're body hopping between to your eldest son or whatever your actual succession laws are, because you can change them. It is a very detailed game. But you have that character has a bunch of like traits. A lot of them are actually themed around the 7 deadly sins and the 7 cardinal virtues. And they are different traits that have effects on your character. So like if your character is wrathful, that's one of them. It actually raises his martial skill, but it will give a piety penalty because it's a sin. And it will do it has some other effect too. It might just be like a health penalty or something. I don't know. You'll get prompted with different events that happen as you're playing. It's sort of a real time with pause, very much a grand strategy simulation. More of the strategy than the tactics. And these events will happen. And if you act out of character, if you do things that aren't wrathful, if you have an event that says like, hey, we caught this guy stealing, how do you want to punish him? And if you don't opt to cut off his head, because that's going to be the wrathful option, you will gain a stress penalty for that. And stress actually accumulates from doing these things, and eventually you'll just die. If you act out of character too much, you will die.
That's how stress works.
And yeah, it's great. No, Crusader Kings is quite the experience. It is very in depth. If you've never played any like grand strategy games by Paradox, it can be quite intimidating to get into. 3 is a bit easier. They have a much better tutorial, at least, than 2 did. 3 is more recent. So I kind of moved over to 3. There's a lot you can do in the game. They update it forever. It is very much a case in, what's the word for it? Emergent gameplay, emergent storytelling. You kind of set your own goals, and follow them and see what happens. And the way that things play out could be just the fact that the game will actually start naming people automatically as things happen. But I mean, you'll see consequences that you didn't realize, right? Because it's based on history, right? But you'll realize, wait, somehow, some way, things I've been doing have spiraled out of control because I started in 867 and it's 1100 now, and the Moors are still in Spain. Why is that? I'm not in Spain. I'm over here in England, and I've never even gone to war with either the Moors or the Spaniards. But for some reason, that's the state of the map right now, right? And it's just stuff like that happens. The game will name characters based on the name. So you get to name, whenever a child in your family is born in your court, you get to name them, right? And you can name them stupid stuff, and I highly suggest you do, because it becomes hilarious. One game, it was actually Crusader Kings 2, but one game I actually named all my children, every child that I was prompted to give a name for. I chose one of the names that the Pikmin games give to fruit, and named started just naming people that. And they would show up later after I'd just forgotten about them, or after the game had procedurally decided to name them after one of their ancestors. And the funny thing too is they'll have like they can get nicknames based on things they do, and they can get patronyms. Like if you're like Scottish culture, you'll get like a Mac based on like your father's name. So then I just started encountering random characters I didn't even name myself that are like Citrus Lump, Mac, something, whatever, the Cruel, and it's like it's just great. It's great. I actually streamed the game once, and I made my main character look like Waluigi, and I was very proud of that.
I think I remember when you did that.
He was the king of Waluigi Land, and he was a giant. To pick
this up. A giant. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play this game. You've talked about it so much. I'm gonna have to figure it out and pick up a copy at some point.
I don't even have the latest DLC. I think I'm like 2 DLCs behind. But yeah, it's a riot.
All right. Well, last but not least, my number one, by no surprise, has got to be Ogre Battle 64 for me. And this, similar to, situation that a lot of people have with their first game that they play of a certain style or a series is their favorite. When this game came out on the N64, there really wasn't a whole lot of RPGs to play. And I went from having a RPG-rich system to not having any RPGs. So whenever this game finally came out, I had a buddy that picked it up first, and I went to hang out with him for the weekend, and we played it. I watched him play, and we made choices and stuff together while he played. And I immediately went out and asked my grandma to get this for me for my birthday, because at the time this was an $80 game. I didn't have $80 to spend on a video game. So I had to wait. I think it was probably like 2 months, and it was like a killer to wait this long to get a game. But I remember getting it, and like my grandma lived in Florida, so I had to wait, or I had to bring my N64, to Florida to play this game, because I knew I was want to play it whenever we picked it up. And we went to Toys R Us and found a copy, because Walmart didn't even have it. It was actually pretty hard to get a hold of, even when it released. There wasn't a whole lot of places that had it, which I think also leads to low sales numbers and why the game is so expensive today. This game was unlike anything I ever played. I hadn't played, like I said earlier, I hadn't played March of the Black Queen yet. So I didn't know what to really expect whenever I first saw this game, but it just kind of grabbed me, and the story is really good. That's one thing that I kind of, playing through Unicorn Overlord now, that what is basically a spiritual successor of Ogre Battle, the series, is the story is okay. Like, it's not super story driven. A lot of times the actions that you take might only impact whether or not you can recruit a character or not.
It's pretty Battle, much, do you actually want to recruit this character or no?
Yeah, do you want this guy or no? But with Ogre Battle, you would make a decision and you kill somebody, and it will completely alter the path of the game. It will block portions of the map to where you don't do those missions any longer. It can totally change the outcome of the game. Like, that was kind of one of the things before Unicorn Overlord came out that I was kind of hoping we would get from it, to make multiple playthroughs more fun, find different things.
Yeah,
but
even
I'm playing it now,
at the end of the demo, they present you with this choice, like, we can go to Drakkenhold or we can go to Elheim, but really you're going to do both. And
you're going to do both anyway. Order. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, so far, I don't have a really good reason to go back and play this game when I'm done, other than, you know, maybe I just want to play it for fun. But there's no, from what I can tell, my actions didn't really impact anything that at the end of the game. I'm almost done. I'm not completely done yet, but I don't see anything that I could do differently to completely change what kind of ending I'm going to get. That's not to say that there isn't multiple endings. I don't know yet. But with Ogre Battle, there were all kinds of things. Like there are some systems that are missing from Unicorn Overlord that could drive differences in the game. Like there was a alignment meter that could, your character could become too chaotic or too virtuous, and that would drive
Too
how
virtuous.
your story. Yeah, I mean, it would not too, but I mean, it was a meter. You were either neutral or you were on one side or the other, and that would drive. It would be one of the drivers for an ending of the game, and then depending on who you recruited or who you killed, would change the ending of the game as well. There was all kinds of different things you could do to change
that
it.
was in Tactics Ogre as well, right? I didn't.
Yep.
There's a lot of post game stuff too, because Tactics Ogre, after you beat the game, lets you, at least the remake, it lets you like jump around the timeline and do stuff you could have done before.
Yeah, which I think that was in. I don't know that was in the original Tactics Ogre. To me, that seems like a quality of life thing that they did so that you didn't have to go back and play the whole
so you don't have to start a new save every time.
Which would be really nice if they did that in Ogre Battle 64, because that's a pretty lengthy game. It's like a 30+ hour game that I played through several times as a kid because there wasn't anything else to play. But just to get the different endings, and it is brutally difficult to get the good ending because it's so easy to make your characters chaotic. Because anytime you kill units, you get more chaos, which essentially makes it to where you have to play the game in a way that you're not. Like whenever I play Unicorn Overlord, I hunt down all the enemies for the experience that are on the map. If you do that at Ogre Battle 64, you get the bad ending because you're now a murderous like general that's just bloodthirsty, out killing everyone. So the whole idea is to capture the strongholds, but try to not really capture the enemies or defeat all the enemies on the map. Don't get the stragglers, just kind of get the strongholds. So there's some major differences, but I definitely am enjoying this, enjoying Unicorn Overlord, but it's definitely not 100% Ogre Battle like I was expecting it to be. But I'm glad either way. Like I like it in its differences, but I do miss the grid not having 9 tiles instead of 6, because I feel like there's even more strategy in there with having 9 tiles and being able to do different things with your characters based on where they're located on the tiles. In Ogre Battle, if you had more than one unit of the same kind, like if you had 2 wizards, they could put their magic, they could be I think there was 4 different elements of wizards in Ogre Battle, and if you put like a wind and a water together in the same unit on the back row, they would blend their magic together to create a more powerful spell. There was just like some different things like that. You could, if you had a wizard and a one of the lance characters, I can't remember what they're called now, but they might be able to electrify your weapon before you attack. It's like there was just some different things, but it doesn't have all of the I guess you would call it's akin to the Gambit system from Final Fantasy 12, where you can change orders for your unit so that they can do actions based on how the battle's being played out. It's like you can heal an ally that's less than so much health, or you can choose to heal an ally of a certain type, of unit. You can do all these things. You can attack, like you can make your character only attack a flying unit or whatever. You can do all these things. that stuff wasn't an ogre battle, but so there's definitely pluses and minuses, but definitely glad to see at least a ogre battle type game. It's like I've mentioned before, it's been about 25 years since we've had one, so it's kind of
even then,
nice
I feel like it may actually be that we have Fire Emblem to thank for it, but just strategy RPGs seem to be having a moment lately.
That's a heyday.
Yeah, like probably like they haven't seen since the original golden age of strategy RPGs, which was kind of like late Super Nintendo to PlayStation.
Yep. Definitely into Game Boy Advance. I felt like there was, after that was the drop off. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
You didn't see near as much tactics in strategy RPGs come out after that. And then, of course, the Switch just kind of brings all genres to its platform, seemingly.
Yep.
So, definitely happy. But that's strategy RPGs. I think we can do some honorable mentions if you'd like, and then we can get out of here.
Yeah, I'd thrown a couple of mine out, but I think people might be wondering when I'm going to talk about Front Mission. Why is Front Mission not on my list? Well, I just played the remake, and Front Mission has some issues, I think, in terms of difficulty spikes, and especially early on, the system. I like the idea of like having parts of your mech get damaged, but the system just lends itself to some really feel bad moments, because especially early on, you never have control over what part you're targeting or is getting targeted. And so sometimes enemies will just happen to only hit your core and insta-kill you. And that always feels bad. Just things like that. And it's really prevalent in the game's second campaign, which is kind of meant to be a hard mode. But like the game just like expects you to grind the arena at different points for like no reason. And then the missions after that will be like too easy. Like it's weird. But I love the.
Sounds like it's got some pacing issues.
Yeah, it's primarily pacing issues. But I love the general aesthetic of Front Mission. I love mechs. Mechs are cool. I love the customizability that gives you. I'm curious to play through the rest of the series and see how it grows over time, because I really want to love the series more. But I do think the first game still has some issues, and the remake did not change them at all. Also, the Genesis games. I haven't played through any of these completely, but the Shining Force games, as well as Warsong, aka Landgrisser. The Genesis was actually getting more strategy RPGs over here in the US. A lot of those Super Famicom ones weren't getting localized. I also want to shout out a game I've mentioned a few times before, just because it is a bargain bin find for me that I go back to as like why you should have been picking up random games at Big Lots when you got a PS2 and they have PS1 games, and that is Eternal Eyes for the PlayStation 1. This is just one of those like stories of like, hey, I found a random super cheap game and it was actually kind of good. Is it as good as Final Fantasy Tactics? No, but it was actually pretty fun, and it's still cheap to this day. Price charting has this at I just had it up. What is it? $6.99 loose. So, you know, if you think games are too expensive, retro gaming's too expensive, just well, you're not looking hard enough. Yeah, a little bit awkward of a game, but it's a pure strategy RPG. Actually, a little bit of Pokemon elements to it. You raise these like the game refers to them as magical puppets, but they're essentially like monsters that you control alongside your player character. I do recommend saving though. There's a weird evolution system to the game, and you can evolve your monsters in a way that makes them worse if you're not careful. And there's really no way to know what's going to happen. But like you collect these gems, and they can either be used as like a consumable to cast a spell, or you can use them to evolve your monsters. But not every evolution is good. So you might accidentally take your like super cool dragon thing, that's like one of the best things in your game. Like, oh, what's it going to evolve into? It's going to be something even more awesome. And then it like turns back into like the vanilla starter Jigglypuff floppy eared pink thing. And you're like, what the heck? I want my gems back.
You need a strategy guide for this game.
Yeah, I think there's a Game Facts article, but there's not a lot of content on it, sadly. But yeah. Also, the localization was not great. There's a bit of English from what I remember. But yeah, it was fun. And it was actually probably one of the earlier examples of a strategy RPG of that sort that I'd played. So yeah, I don't know. I have fond memories of it. I won't claim that it's the best game ever, but I have some good memories of discovering that game.
Yeah, one that I was thinking of that I haven't seen around in a long time, PS2 game called Stella Deuce. And it's a tactical RPG in the likes of like Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's like a futuristic kind of aesthetic to it. It plays out very similarly to Final Fantasy Tactics. Like you have the combat order and all that, and it's very much like that in the fact that like it's grid based, but it's only grid based when you move. Like the rest of the map looks like just regular map. It's not very available though. Like I think you have to play it on PS2. So,
well, PS2s are easy enough to find.
Yeah, I guess you could buy this. The game's not expensive. It's like maybe a $20 or $30 game, but you can get a PS2 and this game for like
32, $48 complete. Yeah, that's not bad.
Definitely one worth looking at. What else you got?
Pokemon Conquest. That's a game that exists. Yep. I honestly don't remember it that well.
That's a game.
I did play through it. It's because we really needed a crossover between Pokemon and Nobunaga's Ambition. Why not? Except the weird thing is it didn't take gameplay from Nobunaga's Ambition. It's very much more a tactics RPG than, because Nobunaga's Ambition is more like it's more of a grand strategy. I mean, it's the typical Koei thing.
Yep.
Codename Steam, I did mention. Not sure how much of an RPG it is, but I just have to mention Codename Steam. I'd also dabbled a little bit in Super Robot Wars 30. I think the original generation games are where you probably should start, especially if you don't have like a master's degree in anime.
There's like a billion of them, and they're like half of them aren't even localized.
But if you just want a strategy RPG with some very flashy battle animations, Super Robot Wars has got you covered.
There was one it was a newer game. It was on the Switch. It had a duck in it and a pig. And
it had a duck in it.
Yeah. Okay. I know that sounds weird, but they were like anthropomorphic, they were like humanoid animals. I can't remember what it's called for the life of me, but it's kind of like in the vein of XCOM.
Mm-hmm.
And I played it, and it's good, but obviously not good enough for me to remember the name. Just that it has a pig and a duck and some other animal as some of the characters that you recruit. Like that's the ones that you start with. Man, why can't I? Now I'm going to try to find it. Because it will, like, I'll see it and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. But I just, for whatever reason, I can't remember. It didn't sell very good. I know that. I want to say it had like Plague in it or something. It wasn't Plague Tale. Yeah, I'm now. It's just gonna be forever lost.
This does not sound familiar to me at all.
Nope.
This is some fever dream.
It's happened. I know that it exists. I just can't remember the name of it. I bet it, but if I try to search for Switch Plague game, it's not gonna.
There's too many Switch games. Gonna have to narrow it down more than that.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, now it's just bringing up Plague Tale. But I'm almost 100% sure that it was something with plague. Anyway, I'm not going to spend an episode trying to figure out what this is. If I can find it by the next episode, I'll call it out. But it was fun. Like I said, it was more of like an XCOM type strategy game, but the name is gone from me. But I think that's it. We didn't have any community couch stuff, did we? That I missed?
No. Community couch has been quiet lately.
No one's sitting on it. It's getting really sticky. It's full of probably change because no one's digging in it. We'll have to reach out, try to get some more community couch stuff for the next season. But I think we're good. Are you done for the night? Call her quits?
I think so.
Alrighty. Thanks for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We're proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you can also jump over to our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. There's lots of video gamer folks, food folks, music folks, film folks. We have everyone at our disposal for our community. We've even got Mike's been doing a game show and posting trivia questions in the Discord. So that's been kind of fun for the last week or so that he's been doing that. And you can find all these things on our website, retrologic.games. There's a link to the Discord in there. There's also the blog where you can read back blog posts. There's a backlog of blog posts waiting for you if you haven't been there. Very unique things in the blog here of late. Anyway, go check it out, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye now.
Goodbye.